In 1944, Yves Montand was performing in a small Paris club when Edith Piaf walked in and sat down. He did not know she was there until the show was over. By then, she had already decided. Montand was 23 years old. Paris in 1944 was still occupied by the German military. The liberation would not come until August of that year, and the entertainment world of the city had been operating under the specific conditions that occupation creates. Performances continued, because performances always continue. But the range of what was possible was shaped by the presence of the occupying authority and the complex accommodations the entertainment world had made with it. Edith Piaf was not in the habit of attending the performances of unknown performers without reason. By 1944, she had been performing in Paris for nearly a decade, and her relationship to the entertainment world was the relationship of someone who was, at that point, one of the central figures in it. But she had a quality that the people around her described consistently: the ability to recognize, in a performer she was watching, something that the performer did not yet know they had. She walked into the club. She sat down. Montand went on. What she saw from her seat was a young man who was performing with the energy and the physicality and the specific kind of commitment that she recognized, not because it was polished or fully formed, but because it was real. The performing world of Paris in that era had no shortage of technically accomplished people who could occupy a stage and deliver a program and receive applause and leave. What it had a shortage of was people who were giving more than they had planned to give, because the stage was taking more than they had prepared to offer. Montand, at 23, in that small club in 1944, was doing this. She gave him attention. This is not a small thing to give. In the entertainment world of Paris in the 1940s, attention from a figure of Piaf's magnitude was a resource, scarce, valuable, and consequential in ways that went beyond the immediate professional benefit. To be the person that Piaf was paying attention to was to be visible in the professional world in a way that no other form of visibility could produce. Her attention, when it was given to a performer, was a statement about that performer's seriousness that the industry took seriously. Montand received this attention. He used it, and in using it, he developed the thing she had seen in that small club, not by imitating her, not by becoming a version of her, but by taking the energy and the commitment and the specific quality of realness that she had recognized, and finding the form that was his own form for it. Montand later described this period of his career as the period in which he understood what he was actually trying to do when he performed. The understanding accumulated over time, through the work he was doing and through the specific context that Piaf's involvement provided. What he understood was the thing that Piaf had seen in that small club in 1944, and that she had decided, in the specific way she made decisions, to address. The professional relationship between them did not last indefinitely. Montand's career developed in a direction that eventually required him to separate from the direct influence of the person who had been instrumental in shaping it, not as a rejection, not as a conflict, but as the natural consequence of a performer who is developed to the point where the development itself requires independence. By the late 1940s, Montand was performing at the levels that Piaf had seen the potential for in 1944, and he was doing so as a figure in his own right. She waited until the show was over. The account of what happened after the show has the quality of a story that has been told in different versions by different people who were in proximity to it. What is consistent across the versions is the basic shape. She spoke to him. She told him something about what she had seen, and what she told him was not a compliment in the ordinary sense. Not, "You were wonderful," but something more specific. Something that addressed the thing she had observed and its relationship to what she believed was possible. The most reliable version of the exchange has her telling him that he had something that most performers did not have, and that he did not know what to do with it yet, and that she could help him learn. He accepted. He would later say that the conversation after that show was one of the few moments in his career when he understood with complete clarity that something had changed. Not what had changed, not what the change would produce. Those things became visible only over time. But the sense that the evening had been divided into a before and that the after had begun in the conversation with the small woman who had been sitting in the audience while he performed, was something he was able to name in retrospect with the precision that retrospect provides. The nature of what followed was the nature of the entertainment world of Paris in that era. Informal, personal, conducted through direct relationships rather than through institutional channels. She gave him access to the people and the venues and the professional contexts that were, at his stage of development, beyond his independent reach. She gave him the opportunity to perform at the levels where the professional skills that the small club circuit does not require would be developed. The moment in the small club in 1944 was not the beginning of a permanent relationship. It was a specific recognition made at a specific moment that changed the trajectory of what came after. Piaf had seen something. She had decided to act on it. The acting had produced a career, not her career, but Montand's career, which was its own thing, shaped in the first instance by what she had recognized, and then shaped by the years of work that followed. The people who were present in that club in 1944 have not left detailed accounts of what they observed when Piaf sat down to watch Montand perform. What they would have seen was a young man on a stage, and in the audience, a small woman who was watching with the specific quality of attention that people in the entertainment world learn to recognize as different from ordinary watching. She was not watching to be entertained, she was watching to understand. He had been performing in a small club in 1944. She had walked in, sat down, and watched. By the time the show was over, she had already decided what she was going to say. By the time she said it, his life had already begun to change. He simply did not know it yet. She had seen the thing. She had known what it was, and she had understood, with the clarity of someone who had been carrying the thing her entire career, that the most useful thing she could do for someone who had it was to help them understand what they were carrying before they put it down. He did not put it down. He carried it for the next 40 years through films and concerts and records and the long, distinguished career that made him one of the most significant figures in French entertainment history. It had started in a small Paris club in 1944, on an evening when Edith Piaf walked in and sat down, and decided.